Terri White. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. Thank you for visiting. I'm here today to just talk to you a little bit about the historical facts about African American marriages. And one of the reasons why I think that is an important topic is because I think a lot of times we kind of take it for granted as African Americans about marriage. And it's also important to know where we have come from in regards to marriage and where we are today, and the relevance of how it affects our families, how it affects our communities, our church, and how it just affects us as a race. I'm hoping that you will be able to take away some nuggets from today's conversation. And as always, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can stay updated on when we're posting new videos. Please visit our blogs. Our blogs coincide a lot about the YouTube discussions that I have, and I would absolutely love to hear your comments and your feedback about the topics that we're talking about. So again, today we're talking about historical facts about African American marriages. And there's one particularly that I'm going to focus on today. Well, maybe a couple, but I'm going to focus on a couple of those. But on the blog, you can find all 7 of those facts. But one of them that I want to start with is where we came from as a people, as a race. And of course, you know, the descendants of African Americans come from Africa, right? And so in the slavery days, we were not allowed to be married. In slavery days, blacks were not even considered as human beings. They were not even considered, people that mattered, people that had an opinion. We were only seen as something that was able to produce whatever the Caucasian or the white people wanted. And so marriage was not even heard of for blacks back in that time. And it was only after slavery was abolished that African Americans were even allowed to become married. And even when slavery was ending, the masters had to give permission to African Americans to even be married. So one of the things that I feel that is important about knowing that type of a history is because over the centuries, over years, we take marriage for granted. And what I mean by that is that we don't realize that at one time it was really a huge privilege to be married. And so, here we are, in 2020 and 2019 and 2018 and the 2000s, we just kind of take the attitude that if it doesn't work, we'll just get a divorce, or, I'll try it out to see if marriage is really for me. When there was a time when we could not even be married without permission. We were not even granted a marriage license. And so, and even the masters in that time, would look at the women as really just people who would, that they would impregnate to create more children for laborers. And when some of the slaves did come together and wanted to, unite or be together, or because of course we're human, so we still had feelings for each other. So when they would want to be together, they could not openly be married, and the men still were not allowed to be with their so-called wives or the women that they loved. They had to have completely separate sleeping quarters. And so, looking at the history of where we come from in marriages and how, now it is really, just kind of like a standard. Is something that you can do if you choose to. If it doesn't work, you can go get a divorce, you can have it annulled, you can be separated. There's so many things that you can do with it. But when we appreciate where we've come from as a people with marriage, then hopefully you will start to value marriage a little bit more. And hopefully you will begin to see that this is not something that, we should take lightly. It's not something that, we feel like, okay, If it doesn't work, then I'll just try something else. And the thing is that over the years, after like maybe about 1970s, 1980s, when blacks were the highest number of people getting married, it started declining really quickly in the 1990s, where you started seeing the divorce rate among African Americans just skyrocketed. So it's so interesting that something that we valued so highly after the Civil War is something, all of a sudden all of us were getting married. And now, in the 1900s, 1990s, people started getting divorces. And the thing that I think is also important is looking at, the compatibility of marriages of couples to see if they're even, compatible with one another. Because back in that day, it's like you only had the tribe that you were associated with. And, of course, that women were taken away from their children and their husbands, and families were all divided. But now we live in a time where, families don't have to be divided. Families are not forced to be separated. It's a choice. And so I'm hoping that maybe as you learn more about the facts of marriages, that you will be more conscious and more conscious and aware of the choices that you have and the privilege that you are walking into with marriage, and that you will be a little bit more cautious in making the decision of getting married before you get into marriage.